The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest for you today from Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome, Lisa Patterson. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for being on, and happy Friday. I'm excited for you to be here. We got great weather here on the East Coast, and you're up on the East Coast, a little north of me, and I think you have better weather than I do.
It's 70 degrees here today. That's one of the things people love about Charleston.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful place. So I have to ask, I always ask this, as a first question, everybody knows I asked it. Were you a young lady of 3 to 5 years old tugging on your mom's hem saying, "Hey, I can't wait to be a realtor one day," or did you fall into real estate? How did that happen?
It's kind of a funny story. My dad was a big real estate investor, and so were my grandparents. And they only did historic properties, and that's how I got the historic bug. So I would follow around with them as a child, watching them do these old houses. But my college education was in clothing design. And then I decided that I wanted to go to law school. And I remember my dad said, "Why do you want to be an attorney?" I said, "Put bad people in jail." He said, "Oh, you're going to be a DA, make no money, and deal with really bad people all day." And I actually went off to law school and was flipping some houses while I was in school, and just loved doing it. And, I'm in my 20s, flipping houses, stripping paint and wallpaper.
Wow.
My friends were out partying. They thought I was crazy. And I hated my job. Just like my dad said, I hated my job. And I came home one weekend and he said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I hate my job." And he said, "You know what? I've watched you know what to buy. I've watched you help other people, and you need to be a realtor." And I'm like, "I don't want to be a realtor." And he said, "You know what, Lisa? Like I said, you know what to buy. You love doing it. And let me just give you a little secret. If you love what you do, it'll never feel like work." And 42 years later, here I am. So that's how I started. Yeah.
Wow, that's a good origin story. And in as a parent, as a matter of fact, today is one of my sons, my oldest son's 30th birthday. But
Happy birthday to them.
Yeah. But as a parent, as it's you try hard to kind of guide them, but you do have to let them kind of try things themselves, because you wouldn't know how many times, Lisa, I have told each of them. One of them is getting his PhD, and I still tell them the same thing. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna be a professor, or, well, I can do research. Well, that sounds exciting. You do research the rest of your life. But
it's just like my dad said, I love what I do. It is stressful at times, with depends on what's going on in the market. But I always come out on top. I have the best clients. I get to be friends with my clients.
There you go.
And I love it. And it's just fun every day, and it's always different.
Hey, sure beats going down to the jailhouse and talking to people who just committed a crime.
Exactly.
Right.
Sitting in an office all day or doing all that research.
Yeah.
But you know what? That background really helps me in real estate. So
I bet
it all turned out the way it was supposed to.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, let me ask you, Lisa, you've got a lot of experience, and that's and I love hearing that. So you got to tell me, are you a solopreneur? Do you have a team, or what does that look like inside your office?
It's just me. I have a lot of support with inside my Sotheby's affiliate here, Daniel Revenell Sotheby's, with my marketing team. It's just me. I'm ranked in one of the top producing agents out of about 9,000 agents here in Charleston. I just found out yesterday I'm in the top 500. I think I'm really higher ranked than that, but that was one of the stats that came out.
Wow.
And it's kind of amazing that I still remain that rank. And I also restore historic properties, act as my own GC. My neighbors always say, "Lisa, how do you do all this?" And I'm like, "I don't require much sleep." That's how I get it done.
I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to reiterate. How do you get all that done? It's hard enough, being a realtor and kind of being on call, right? I mean, we're all kind of on.
Yeah, we work 7 days a week, actually.
Yeah, work 7 days, but you love it though. So it's not work.
I love it, and I'm very organized. I have a great team within the office, within marketing and support if I need it. And then the other thing, being with the Sotheby's brand, we do a lot of referral business between us within, I can have a client call me and want to live anywhere in the world, and I can find them a realtor. And I'm very connected with other Sotheby's office and other agents. So I can, if somebody calls me and they want to be in New York, I can pick up the phone and call an agent that I actually know, that I've met with and seen, and say, yeah, this person will take care of you. So I have everything very streamlined.
Nice.
So it makes it work.
That's fantastic. Sounds like you are very organized. Something that I had to actually learn in my later years. I was never an organized person, so I'm a little bit jealous, but I actually have to work at it even after 50 years. So we talked about how you got started, and we talked a little bit about how you being a solopreneur. Let's talk more about your restoration side. I find that fascinating. I think it's important not only to your community but to the United States at large. Restoring these historical buildings and things like that. I hear a lot of about tearing down things, not enough about keeping them up. But I'd like to hear a little more about that.
That's the good thing here in Charleston. They don't let you tear it down. So we
there
have
you go.
And that's why we have such a fabulous historic, presence here in Charleston. I actually live downtown in the historic district in the very well-known South of Broad neighborhood. Lived in the neighborhood forever. My husband grew up in Charleston, born and raised here. But I've restored, we just finished up, we're doing the punch list items now, my 38th historic restoration, act as my own DC. I buy the worst thing that I can find. I have had friends and family, even my husband, I've bought things and he's like, what were you thinking? And I just love bringing them back to life. I used to see my parents do that. And I have 3 brothers and they all buy new construction. They will not buy an old house. Wow. But my clients are kind of interested when we talk about this, especially if they're looking for something in a historic district. And I'm like, oh, I can help you. I can go through a house. I can pretty much tell you what needs to be done. I can hook you up with the right, people to do the work. The newest house I've ever owned is 1873, and the oldest is 1777.
Wow.
Yeah. The one I just moved from was 1777.
I can't imagine restoring something from 1777. I don't even it's beyond my scope. I live in, obviously I told you I live in West Palm Beach, right? So everything, there's no 1777. There's very few homes here that would even be 80 years old. It just didn't happen. So it's fascinating to me that you'd be able to restore something like that. Do you bring in you act as your own GC? Do you bring in I guess like architects that are familiar with the building of that time, or you just go in and restore? How does that work? How does that look?
I can usually go in and kind of get a sense myself and draw it out. And my husband, he's on his second career. He's retired military, but he was a structural engineer in the military. So I've learned a lot from him. Like I can go in a house and it's like, oh, if this is sagging, that's sagging, this is cracking, we have a structural issue, but never had anything like that. This house here, the back end of it, we had to do some things underneath for stabilized floors and joists and stuff. But I pretty much go in and I just have an eye for it. I just go in with a vision, and I can, and it's really funny because my husband has no vision when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've literally bought and sold our houses while he was traveling for work. I remember the first time I did it, he just went, what do you mean you sold our house? I'm like, well, somebody called and they offered us this much. And then he was like, whoa. So now he can trust me. His thing is now, just tell me where I need to bring my suitcase if he's traveling. So we're starting, we weren't even halfway through this when inventory is very limited in Charleston. Right. And we were having people stick things in the mail slot wanting to know if we'd sell. So every time he leaves for a trip, he's like, please don't sell this house while I'm gone. Please. Right. I'd like to live here for a little while, but
he's got a bug out. He's probably got a bug out bag packed away just in case he comes back and needs something to take with him to change his clothes.
But yeah, I can usually have a sense for it. And, sometimes even my contractors will look at me and say, well, we can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can. And then I'm like, well, you do this, you do this, you do that, and we can make it work. And it usually works. And then one of the fun things I do with my clients and friends is if I'm doing a project, I have a before party before we tear it apart. And then I have an after party after we get it back together. And they get to see the transformation.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I want to go to those parties. That sounds exciting.
We'll invite you. You
like
can
to
just,
see that.
it doesn't take long. I love Palm Beach. I go there. I have friends there. So yeah, it's a quick trip.
Yeah, it's not a bad trip at all. Not a bad trip
Yeah.
at all. As a matter of fact, I have in-laws that always go to Charleston before they come down and see us every December.
Oh,
This year my son got married in December. I don't know why he chose December, but he got married in December, so they skipped the Charleston part and came to the wedding instead. But yeah, definitely a wonderful place to visit. I used to make the trip when I lived in Connecticut, and I'd come down here, and we'd always stop over. Wonderful, wonderful part of the country if people haven't seen it. So let's talk about the real estate side a little bit more. You're obviously a fast mover, when it comes to properties and things like that. But what does the next 1-3 years look like for you? You sound like the type of person, and if I'm wrong, Lisa, but you're probably never going to stop.
I'm not.
I don't think
I keep-
stops in
I'm
your
gonna keep
vocabulary.
My
Yeah.
oldest son, a while back, I had a little health issue, which everything is fine. And he's like, Mom, you're getting older. And he always tells me I'm getting older. I'm in my 60s. And I'm like, well, I'm
Yeah.
not, that's not old. I used to think it was, but now it's not. But I'm like, what do you mean retire? And he's like, well, I think you should retire. It's getting time. I'm like, I'm not going to retire. He said, when are you going to retire? So when they carry me out in the box, I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop. And I don't even want to slow down or slow back. I have talked to my office. I think at one point, continue to sell, but do some training.
Right.
I have a lot of agents, younger agents that call on me for things anyway. And I think it's fun to train and, because in this business, there's a lot of agents that don't get the proper training. So it's really hard for them. It's kind of like you get your real estate license and you sign up with a brokerage and they throw you out on the street. And
Right.
it's hard.
That's why we have such a huge attrition rate. I mean, and another thing I always say this, Lisa, that a lot of young folks that get into the business get sold a bill of goods by either HDTV or maybe someone else. And I always say, it's not all about just driving around the town waving at everybody and you're going to sell a $1 million listing. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. And a lot of people come to Charleston and get in the business thinking they're going to make a lot of money. And that it's not just about, people think we just go around and show pretty houses all day. And that is not it. It is a lot of hard work. I do a lot of continuing education on top of what I'm required to do. I'm on lots of Zoom calls. There's lots of paperwork. You need to know your stuff. And here in Charleston, the other thing, if you sell downtown in the historic district, that's a totally different animal. And you need to know that. And then we also have the hurricanes and the flooding and all that. And you need to know, you need to know your market. It's not a quick get your license and make a bunch of money. And it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I always say that HGTV not only lied to everybody, HGTV's turned into the what is it, the WWE of real estate. It's all fictitious. It's a big story, and please don't come to me saying, hey, I want to be like this guy that sells $10 million homes because he's a heck of a cool guy. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work. Sorry. But
HGTV is also kind of hindered. We have people come to town. They're like, oh, I want to buy a historic property and I want to do a renovation. And they start talking about what it's going to cost or what they can do and whatever, and how long it's going to take. And I've actually told clients this before. One particular client, they had looked at so many houses, and I took them out one day and they had about 15 more they want to look at. I narrowed it down to 3. I am really good at matching people to houses. And I narrowed it down to 3, and I looked at them. I said, this is not HGT. It doesn't happen that long. We're looking at 3 houses a day and you're picking one. It's just how it's going to be. You've looked at 50 houses by this time.
Right. I'm the professional. You wouldn't argue. I always say, I said, you wouldn't argue with your doctor about treatment. You're not going to argue with me about this. I'm telling you, you're going to get preferential, you decide, but here's how it's matched out. This is what you wanted. So I agree with you 100%. That's why
I'm pretty brutally honest. And, I tell my clients that up front. And if you don't like it, I'm probably not the person for you. And they're like, no, I like it. I had another client was kind of, like you said, in our business, we're the professional. We know this stuff. We do it every day, and they don't. I mean, even though seasoned buyers and sellers that have multiple homes, they don't do this every day. So they really need
Right.
to, make sure they have a trusted advisor that they can trust and going to guide them the right way. But I had one time trying to tell me how to do things, and they were a doctor. I won't say what kind of doctor. I said to him one day, I said, are you having appointments tomorrow? And he said, yeah, of course I am. It's Monday morning. I'm like, what time do you start? He told me, he said, why? And I said, well, I'm going to come by. I know nothing about how to be this particular doctor,
Right.
but I think I'm going to tell you what you need to do with your patients tomorrow. And he looked at me and I said, I thought you trusted me. And he said, I do. I said, well, then let me do my job.
Right. That's strong.
And after
I love
that,
it.
he was fine.
I love it. That's exactly what should be said. Well, Lisa, how would someone get in touch with you if they wanted to list a home? Maybe they wanted to buy a home in Charleston. How would they get in touch with you?
I tell everybody to give me a call. My cell number is 843-991-6809. And my website is lisa-patterson.com. Very simple.
Perfect. One of the things I like to do, Lisa, as we're winding down here, we got a few minutes left, but I always like to kind of give you the floor. I always say I'm the DJ and you're the hit record, and people want to hear you, not me. Take us out with a good word, whatever's on your heart, your mind, your soul. It could be about work. It could be about Charleston. It could be about your pet dog. Give us a good word and take us out for the day.
Well, everyone comes to Charleston because, and who doesn't love Charleston? If you've been here, we have arts, history, culture, fine dining. It's walkable. The weather's great. We have beaches and golf courses within minutes of each other. And my favorite thing is the friendliest people you'll ever want to meet. One of the big things, we have a lot of people that end up here from other states where real estate is done totally different. I advise people, number one, have your own representation in the state of South Carolina. Realtors represent the seller, regardless if we have the listing or not. Please, even if you don't use me, when people call me and I explain this to them, I'm like, even if you don't use me, have your own representation. Don't call the listing agent because you will not have representation. And please do not go on a new home construction site because they work for the builder and you will not have representation. So always make sure you have your own representation. And as you said, people work with people that they like, know, and trust, and with someone that's going to look out for your best interest. That's my number one. And same thing if you're a seller, make sure that somebody's looking out for your best interest.
Lisa, thank you so much for being on the program. Charleston, South Carolina, Sotheby's, Lisa Patterson. I look forward to talking to you again, maybe in the next 3, 6, 9 months. And I want to hear more about some of these renovations. Of course, as fast as you move, by then you've probably already done another dozen of them, if there's that many to go around. But
my husband says we're not doing one for a while, that his next stop is the Bishop Gadsden, which is the retirement home here, but that's not happening.
No way. I'm out. You're on your own. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the nice weather, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks.
Thank you.